So we do have some breaking news on the stimulus front this morning. It was a pretty eventful night. 2 days of it was eventful last night, maybe late night pizza orders and so forth, but 2 days of congressional drama ended with wins for Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats last night. This was a big deal. This was not easy. Obviously, we're talking about the infrastructure piece of this, the roads and bridges piece of this, but more importantly was the $3.5 trillion human infrastructure piece of this. So Democratic leadership had a late night last night, and all 220 Democrats voted for a $3.5 trillion budget resolution embedded in a House rule. So that measure also set a September 27th deadline for a House vote on the Senate's $1 trillion, TSA roads and bridges infrastructure package. Okay, so they'll have, I'm going to go through each piece of this. So what's in it? Will there be additional checks? I'm going to talk about elder care, child care. So just pay attention, okay? Because I'm going to go through what's all in this in the framework. Now, this is not finalized, but I'm going to go dive deep into this in just a moment here. Thank you for your super chat, David Allen. I appreciate it. To be clear, this is a $5 trillion package over 10 years. This is a transformative, massive package for the American economy. It's and could be absolutely life-changing for millions of Americans once it's implemented. So the real issue now is the clock starts ticking on the passage of that massive reconciliation bill that's key to enacting President Joe Biden's legislative agenda, especially the American Jobs Plan and the American Family Plan, the two of them. You know, there was initial criticism that, hey, we should not be doing these two things together. You know, roads and bridges and highways and all that stuff should be separate from this. But in the end, Nancy Pelosi felt that we needed to get this done together. And by the way, progressives won last night. This is a huge win for progressives. The moderate sort of conservative wing of the Democratic Party got crushed. So this is a big win for anybody like myself who's a progressive that wants to see transformative legislation in this country. We got it last night.
I'm not trying to rain on a parade, but why is it that whenever it's for us, like they're spreading it out over 10 years, but like when it's the CARES Act, when $5 trillion went to the big companies, it was instant? Like, why is there, like, how is it as beneficial if it's over 10 years? Because couldn't another president come in and stop it before the whole 10 years is done? Or,
yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, first of all, let's be clear. We still don't know how this money will be dispersed over that amount of time. So we don't yet know why, because you can't, there's certain programs, we did talk about this a few weeks ago. There are certain programs you can't do all at once. I mean, there's removal, there's like contracts of removal of identifying where these lead pipes are in people's neighborhoods, and the removal then of lead pipes. This is not going to be like an instantaneous thing. So,
right, but the money could be available instantaneously. So it's like you make the money available instantly, because like then how are they going to determine who gets? So every year they're going to have to determine who gets money, and then what? Like, okay, this year we're going to focus on lead pipes. Next year we're going to focus on bridges. Because we've only got so much each year to work with. So
right.
That's what it doesn't go into a coffer, and like they can pull from it for anything that's needed within 5 years or whatever.
Right. And, look, what we saw, these like shovel-ready projects under Obama, which the Obama administration, they were not shovel-ready. So they were basically lying to us. And that money ended up being wasted. Remember the Solyndra disaster? So, yes, we don't know the meat of this yet. And we don't know the line by lines of this yet. We have a basic framework. So hold your horses. Hold your horses, young David. We'll see. Okay. And we will be critical. Like once we have actual details of where this money is going to sit and for how long and who's going to get access to it, and we'll go through that in September, likely when we get to actually see a framework of this thing. So we have preliminary information, which we'll get to in a moment. But I agree with you. We'll hold them accountable on that.
Yeah, because basically it's still less than the war budget every year if you take it and break it up that long.
Right, which $750 billion a year for the defense budget. And so this is $5 trillion over 10 years for infrastructure. So again, we'll see how it all breaks out and what projects are on a timetable. Like, is it the solar infrastructure, the electrification plan, the putting in roads and bridges plan? Obviously, they're not going to be building every bridge and every road in 1 year. So I think this will be spread out based on government contracts and who wins those contracts, and it's going to be out of that it's going to be out of that bank account for the next 10 years. So the infrastructure measure includes $550 billion in new spending and is aimed at revitalizing the nation's roadways, bridges, broadband access, so internet access, and then the $3.5 trillion measure, which is supported by Democratic leaders and its progressive faction, includes funding for climate measures, infrastructure investments left out of the other bill. And also, interestingly, they managed to get into this framework residency status for millions of migrant workers, which is, in my opinion, fantastic. These people who come to the United States, work tirelessly doing jobs that Americans don't want. Then these businesses rely on their work. And they, by the way, they pay taxes also. But they can't get citizenship, right? So giving them residency. So allowing residency for a million migrant workers that these companies rely on. And by the way, it's the little secret in Washington that these Republicans also wanted this because so many of their corporate constituents want these migrant workers as well. Also, there'll be 2 years of paid tuition at public universities. I wish they would have done 4. I don't know why we didn't. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll go get a little bit more on this. But Nancy Pelosi last night announcing this and saying this was a major breakthrough and this is going to be transformative for the American people. Were you about to say something? Or maybe
well,
I was just going to
say, they're always happy to give us 50%. Like, it's like the most they can ever do. Like, they can't fix 100% of child poverty or anything. It's like, we can do 50%. Like, that's all we can do. We've got the ability to do it, but we're going to only do 50% of your college. We'll do 2 years, not 4. We'll give you, half of this, but, it always baffles me. It's like, we'll help some of you, but we're not going to help you all.
Like Obamacare, right?
Yeah.
Like just a big windfall for insurance companies. Couched in, it'll help you a little bit. But mostly it's a big help for insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. Excuse me, I'm going to cough.
Yeah, no worries. We knew what you meant. But yeah, that's the thing. Like they put things in these bills that are like specific language to get people on board and say, this is for you. This is going to help you. This is going to benefit you. But like, until you go in and read the fine print, you don't realize how much of it is, like, how little of it actually benefits you and how much of it benefits the drug companies or the military industrial complex. Somebody else is benefiting way more than you, or you wouldn't even have it.
No, Wall Street, look, let's be clear about this. Wall Street is going to benefit dramatically from this bill, okay? There's going to be plenty of money that's going to be funneled to these. And, it may be funneled to companies that are doing green technology and green work. But still, they're still companies, right? They're still Wall Street companies. They might be doing solar, but they're still on Wall Street. And they're going to make money off of this. And so, look, hey, if you want to be a part of this, figure out how you can be investing in some of these companies, day trading, investing, and so forth, and making money like they are. Finding out where some of this money is going to go would behoove you. I certainly have. I've been watching where this money is going to go, and so I've been making smart trades based on that. Your Imperial Majesty says community college is a 2 years curriculum. Right. True enough, but it's often not seen as right. Community college is also not, it's junior college, right? It's not seen as helpful for you to get a job, isn't it? Right. I mean, the idea is like, why can't we give people a 4-year university like they do in Europe for free? So kids aren't saddled with student loan debt. There's an idea. Wouldn't that be a brilliant idea? So let's go deeper into this bill now, shall we? So again, if you're just tuning in, $3.5 trillion stimulus plan is now tied together with the $1.2-ish trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. And it won a key House vote last night, and it moves forward now for a reconciliation vote towards the end of September. And there's a lot in this thing that we are going to get to here. So let's dive into it, shall we? Okay, so let's go deeper into this bill. What do Democrats expect to include in this emerging package? Remember, this is not final. These are just some basic frameworks that I'm going to go through. So the legislation is expected to include paid family and medical leave. It is expected to subsidize childcare. It's expected to also have an extension of that expanded child tax credit. So this is a stimulus bill and could be thousands of dollars a month for families in this extension of the child tax credit and others. A universal pre-kindergarten program for 3 and 4-year-olds and 2 years of tuition-free community college. It's also going to provide green cards to millions of immigrants. Those are some of the base level pieces of this, okay? And it would also extend expanded Affordable Care Act subsidies that were approved earlier this year in the COVID-19 package. It would also broaden medical benefits to cover dental, vision, and hearing. And it would also aim to reduce the cost of prescription drugs. Now, this is a huge piece of this. Now, my wife and I were sitting there last night talking about Medicare, and you realize like what a crap show our health system is. I mean, you don't need me to tell you. Like, you know, I'm sure, just let me know in the chat, like, what are you guys paying for different prescription drugs? You know? And it would allow Medicare to negotiate prices. And one of the things my wife and I were talking about last night is that Medicare, of course, you know, is illegal for them to negotiate lower drug prices, right? Because they're run by private contracts.
Well, so they
can't do it.
There was a cream that I needed for a rash kind of thing that I get, and it's $300 for the tube here in the United States. I went to Juarez, Mexico, and got it for $6 for the tube, and it's $300 here. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like, why?
Right. I mean, you know, what's really sad too is like the healthcare prices, like the hospital bills. New York Times just did an expose about all of the different. You know, I slam the New York Times on a regular basis, and occasionally they do some decent work. But anyway, they did a breakdown of how our health system is crap. You know, and they looked at, you know, if you have a different healthcare plan, you have an insurance plan, the same procedure will cost basically twice as much as if you didn't have insurance. So out of pocket, if you didn't have insurance, you'd pay $725 for this particular surgery or procedure, minor procedure. But if you have insurance, it'll cost like $1,800 to get the procedure. And it's not illegal. Like, this is all corruption. Like, this is corruption at the highest level, and it's all legal. Congress has allowed this to happen. You know, Becky Medved says, I needed an antibiotic cream for an eye infection. It was less than 1/116th of an ounce. It was $175. Holy crap, Becky. Yeah.
But look at what people pay for inhalers in this country.
Yeah. Yeah. Sunshine Speaks is $90 a month for heart medicine. Unbelievable. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, you know, I mean, that Americans are saddled with. You want to know why America is falling behind the rest of the world? Just look at our healthcare system. Just a disaster. Just a disaster. So
we're
it would allow
on every list for quality healthcare.
So it would allow Medicare to negotiate prices in this new stimulus, among other steps. So the big question, does the plan try to address climate change? Yes. So this new stimulus plan would include climate change provisions. Democrats are proposing a series of ideas, including tax credits for clean energy investments and a plan that resembles a clean electricity standard across the United States. It would also aim to reduce carbon emissions by the electricity sector by 80% and economy-wide by 50% by 2030. That's huge, by 2030. And, you know, can't come quick enough. You know, if you interview any climate scientists, I mean, they're all pointing to the same thing. We've got less than 15 years until basically the point of no return, utter disaster on increasing temperatures across the world. So Democrats are also proposing, and I love this, polluter import fees. Such fees would help lower emissions globally when generating revenue for the United States, effectively acting as an emissions-based tariff. If you're polluting, you'll be taxed on it. Democrats are also hoping for other cost-saving measures elsewhere, such as allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices, A Congressional Budget Office analysis of a bill that passed in the House in 2019 estimated that price negotiation of these prescription drugs basically would lower spending by about $456 billion over 10 years. What are these big RX companies going to do about it? How are they going to handle it? Are there other parts of the world? In the United States, they can run television commercials like crazy. So you can go and buy your prescription drugs and they can make billions of dollars. Democrats say they will raise taxes on corporations and high-income households also to fund this plan. But we don't yet know what that's going to look like. Joe Biden has said that he's not going to raise taxes on anybody making less than $400,000 a year. We'll see if he sticks to that. I know there's been discussions about whether or not there'd be a tax on gas mileage, et cetera. So we'll see if he sticks to that or if he's lying to us.
Come on, man.
Sorry. Keeping it real, Joe. Keeping it real. So President Biden also has proposed increasing the corporate tax rate to 28% from 21%, which would tighten the net on U.S. companies' foreign earnings. And it would raise the top capital gains tax rate to 43% from 23%. Some Democrats have balked at the scale of those increases, though, those moderate Democrats saying no way. But I just want to remind you of how much money billionaires are making right now. Just if you needed this reminder, take a look at this new chart out this morning. Breaking news, America's 708 billionaires are now worth $4.8 trillion after gaining $1.8 trillion, up 62% during the pandemic. That wealth growth alone could pay for over half of the Democrats' $3.5 trillion budget plan. Don't tell us we can't afford to invest in working families. And look at the list. Look at Bezos. His net worth grew 66% during the pandemic. Elon Musk up 612%. Bill Gates up 33%. Mark Zuckerberg up 135%. Yeah, look at that. Unbelievable.
Now show the workers' wages since 1970. What percentage of growth have they seen?
Flatline.
Really?
Yeah, flatline. Hey, take it for a second. I got to go cough.
Yeah. So what Clayton's basically saying is these people have seen their wealth go up like this, like at a constant incline, right? And the people who are making them that money, the people that are working their asses off every single day for crap wages, have stayed here. So what it should have been is it should have been a parallel. They should have been going up together as the profits and stuff increase. People's wages should have increased, but they didn't. Theirs did this while the people stayed flat. That is a load of crap. Like we talk about, capitalism, and everybody's like, well, if people just work, they're lazy or whatever. But, in a capitalist system, I still think that those people that are making you the money should be rewarded for making you that money. And they give them nothing. They, like they don't get a livable wage. Because people are arguing for a federal minimum wage of $15. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I don't think we should try to demand a minimum wage federally. I really don't. I don't think there should be a minimum wage, period. But I think that there should be some kind of system in place where companies are only can claim a certain percentage of profits and the rest have to go to their employees, because the employees are like, when I had my company, I was the CEO of a tech startup. I paid my people as much as I got paid. We all got paid the exact same. I just took what profits there were for the month and I split that between all of us and kept some of it in an account to keep the business going. Because I knew that if without those people, I wouldn't even have a company. I wouldn't be able to live in the house I lived in. I wouldn't be able to drive the car I was driving if it wasn't for those people coming to work every single day. And so I wanted them to be happy. I wanted them to want to be there. I wanted them to want to be part of what I was doing. But these people, they're so far removed from their employees, so far removed that they have nothing in common. They don't care about them. Jeff Bezos is going to space and thanking his employees, But it's like, put your money where your mouth is. He's saying verbally, I appreciate you. I appreciate you, my employees. Here I am. I'm going to space. I took a bunch of tax money. Here I go. Thank you, my workers. Thank you so much for making me a multi-billionaire. But I'm not going to pay you anymore. I mean, I'm not going to give you any more of my money. I have to have this. Look, I'm number one on this big list now. I'm like so important. Look at me. But I'm not going to help you. So, as wages increase, or the the amount these people make goes up, so should wages. They should be on a parallel scale all the way up, and it's a shame that we have flatlined since the 70s.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating, and this idea of a $15 an hour minimum wage is such a controversy, right? More like $23 an hour to actually not be a poverty wage. So,
well, and in rural areas like New York City, even that is gonna like look at the cost of apartments in New York City. You couldn't live there on $23 an hour.
No, and yesterday we covered this in the newsletter this morning. New York City has now eclipsed San Francisco as the most expensive place to live. So if you want to rent an apartment in New York City, $2,800 for basically the cheapest place you're going to find. $2,800 a month.
Yeah, I had a friend that was paying $3,000. Oh, I'll give you an example of me personally. I was looking at potentially getting an apartment in San Francisco for 500 square feet, $3,000 a month. And this was on a courtyard of an apartment complex. $3,000 a month for 500 square feet.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Not unbelievable.
$23 isn't going to help me live there.
Yeah. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Meanwhile, these conservative Democrats, we'll see where they come down on all of this. But right now, they lost. This was a pretty big victory for progressive last night. So what are the hurdles for this thing to actually pass, the new stimulus to actually pass? Democratic leaders need to keep every single senator in line. And no GOP support is expected. No Republican will support this bill. But I guarantee you, though, they will go back to their districts and talk about how much money is coming to their district, even though they had nothing to do with it.
Well, let's not forget the donors are going to be a big determining factor. It's probably the donors that were like, Nancy, you need to get back to Washington and you need to get this passed. You know that there's pork in here for us. Go get these people back here.
And I love pork.
Yep.
I love me some pork. So, excuse me, Vice President Kamala Harris would be casting this tie-breaking vote in the House where legislation can pass with a simple majority. Democrats can then only lose 3 votes total. 3 votes total. So that's a look at the stimulus update, everyone. Major breaking news on this and surprising turnaround. We thought literally they were kicking this to September. But in a last night meeting, they managed to get it done. Moderate Democrats lost this battle, which is good news. Those you might as well even just call them conservative Democrats, because that's what they really are. And progressives won. So now it moves forward on September 27th with an actual vote on this stimulus. So great news on this front. Great news, great news, great news. I don't want to downplay that at all. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.